But if I could ask you, I mean, you've seen scenarios in US where you've practiced, and back home here you've seen standards, and you're trying to ensure that things go according to plan. What do you consider as the greatest challenge or impediment that you like to address, or you see there that I think, look, we need to address this particular point such that every other thing will fall into place?
I think you've just asked the question I answered earlier. In all my experience, what I have found is that unless you have a very robust, clear, transparent, and stable consequence management system, you're not likely to modify human behavior. People are people. Doesn't matter what color or what continent people are on. The only thing that makes people behave appropriately is that they recognize that they're making choices, and whatever choice they make have consequences. And so if we can strengthen our regulatory frameworks and then professional discipline where there are professional issues, then I'm pretty certain that we would have moved far along. And a quick example for that is that Nigerians who are trained in Nigeria are amongst the best professionals in different parts of the world, across professions, healthcare or otherwise. And so the question you must ask yourself is that what makes that professional environment more robust and more transparent, where those Nigerians are able to operate and succeed? What makes it different from the environment where we operate here? It's really about whether there are enforceable standards and consequences for violating those standards.
All right, we'll go to break, but we will be back and talk about other activities of the CPC in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Well, Mr. Okera, we've got people asking questions about activities of CPC here. Some says they've laid certain complaints to CPC and they haven't gotten any response. And this one says it's for over a month now. Okay, let me even read it to you, just in case you may have heard it. It comes from Mr. He says it's Wisdom. He says we should notify you that he made a complaint to the commission about an airline overtly withdrawing $800 fund from his accounts for over a month now, and he hasn't gotten any feedback from the CPC.
Oh, thank you for that, but that is actually unusual, so that would be an exception to the case. I know that approximately a year ago, one of the greatest criticisms of the council was a lack of responsiveness, but that has diminished significantly. We've improved the systems and we are responding as well as we can. One of the most contentious types of complaints we receive is really just the monetary ones. And the reason is because it's usually two sides to it. So sometimes some of those complaints take a while to resolve, but I'm surprised that he has at least not received a response. And so I'll give my email address publicly if you'd be kind enough to send me an email. And my email address is tunde.irukera@cpc.gov.ng. I would ensure that we follow through on that. I don't know what happened in this case, but one other thing that I'd like this complainant and many others to know is that the complaint resolution ecosystem also is a very complex one. There are sector regulators. For instance, in aviation, you've got the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority that we work with and collaborate in resolving complaints. If it was a telecommunications ones, it would be the NCC. If it was a food and drug issue, it would be NAFDAC. If it was a banking issue, it would be CBN. If it was an electricity issue, it would be the NERC. And some complaints we would resolve by ourselves. Some others would require that collaborative regulatory approach to resolution. So sometimes that takes time.
You said something earlier about consequence management system, which a lot of people believe that we don't have enough of, we don't have effectively here in the country. But look at that and this Bill of Rights, of the patient's Bill of Rights. How the level of penetration in the private hospitals, how would that be for the CPC to handle?
Well, I mean, for instance, as a matter of law, for the CPC, we have a mandate to regulate market behavior with respect to consumer protection. So it wouldn't matter whether it's in a public institution or a private institution. Also, the regulatory authority, professional regulatory authorities regulate professionals regardless of where they're working or not. And so what we really, I mean, I'm not concerned about whether people work in a public institution or in a private institution. I think it wouldn't matter as far as the scope of the law or the mandate to hold them accountable. It's really about whether we can focus on the complaint resolution mechanisms and make sure that they're working. And one of the key areas of resolving complaints, in my opinion, is not just to address the sensitivities of the complainant, but to make sure that there's retribution for those who behaved inappropriately. Because if all we do is to address the sensitivities of complainants, then it doesn't modify behavior, and we just continue to address those sensitivities. Now, in a private setting, it might, because if it becomes reputational for an organization, and in this case a hospital, they might separate the employee or employees involved from their business for business reasons. But when there is retribution, whether in the judicial process, but certainly in the disciplinary process, then that comes together with the demand of patients to enforce their rights, and then we would see that equilibrium that truly really creates a far better space than we're seeing today.
All right, then, Mr. Tunde Irukera, Director General, Consumer Protection Council of Nigeria, thank you for talking to us today, and we wish you all the best. So there you go, that's the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Jimbo Umar.
I'm Neo Igbe. Have a good day.